This episode is brought to you by Netflix. From the creator of Homeland, Claire Danes and Matthew Rhys star in the new Netflix series, The Beast in Me, as ruthless rivals whose shared darkness will set them on a collision course with fatal consequences. The Beast in Me is a riveting psychological cat and mouse story about guilt, justice, and doubt. You will not want to miss this. The Beast in Me is now playing only on Netflix.
Every drop of Jack Daniel's is mellowed through sugar maple charcoal, giving Jack its smooth taste. That's what makes Jack, Jack.
Please drink responsibly. Jack Daniel's and Old No. 7 are registered trademarks. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniel Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Exploring both interstellar and interpersonal space-time continuums. The Last Show with David Cooper.
I got a text the other day. It said, "Can we have a conversation today?" And for a second there, I thought, I should respond. This might be someone I know, even though it's an unknown number. And then I remembered it's probably just a scam. They're going to eventually ask me for my bank money, my bank numbers, or an iTunes gift card or something. I'm here with Carmi, Levy. It's time for technology time. We're talking stories from the tech sector of the day. Those annoying phishing messages are getting more and more realistic, and the responses are more and more realistic because the companies or shadowy organizations doing it, they're using AI to try to figure out how to do it well. Carmi, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, David. I've got one of these messages just this morning as well, and they are getting better. And I have to do like a double take. I can't tell. Sometimes they spoof like they're coming from someone that I know or an organization I'm familiar with, and I come pretty darn close to feeling like, yeah, I need to answer them before reality prevails, and I realize no. This is a scam. It's not just you, and it's not just me, and it's not just our listeners. This is on the upswing, and they are getting more sophisticated. And scammers are, in many cases, they don't even have to know how any of this works. There are these phishing as a service networks, services that you subscribe to, and that literally kind of walks you through the entire process. Google has sued a group of scammers. They call them Lighthouse. They believe they're in China. They don't even know who they are, but they are essentially making this phishing as a service platform available to scammers. And if you do the math, you realize that's why it's becoming as pervasive as it is.
Is there a way to cut them off of the SMS or the messaging service networks? Like, why hasn't, at least in the US, the FCC, in Canada, the CRTC, there's got to be a way these companies interface with the cell networks. I imagine they're not just using one stolen phone. This is sending out blasts of texts. There's got to be a way to cut off certain organizations from this network so that they can't send texts.
Yeah, there's a technology that's called Stir Shaken, and it has been implemented by a number of American telecommunications carriers. Here in Canada, the CRTC has mandated, as of about a couple of years ago, they've mandated that telecommunications companies need to implement that technology as well. And basically what it does is it forces anyone who would send large volumes of calls, forces them to authenticate those calls on the network. If I want to send an email, I have to authenticate. If I want to make a phone call, I don't have to. This forces anyone who sends mass email to authenticate. And at first...
Text.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. We all make mistakes. I make a ton of them. Anyone who sends mass texts.
Yeah, so... anyone who sends mass text, they would have to authenticate it first. And when this technology was first implemented a couple of years back, it did result in a drop in the volume of these kinds of messages. But, thieves and criminals being what they are, they very soon figured out a workaround. And so even though our telecommunications regulator has rules in place that require our networks to be hardened against these kinds of text messages, the sad truth is the criminal element. Criminals have already figured out ways to get their messages through regardless.
Yeah, so this show has a phone number, 1-888-505-6644, and sending out outgoing messages as a service, as a business, as a radio show, whatever, you have to fill out all kinds of documents about the nature of the text, the nature of the campaigns. But a lot of this stuff is voluntary. So like our telecom provider for that number, they're voluntarily forcing their users to basically prove that they're not spamming. Mm-hmm. But as I understand it, these networks where companies can send text messages in, like the backbone of telecom, it's kind of opt-in, and so you will get bad actors, international bad actors, because there needs to be an international connection to these networks so you can send international texts and receive them. Those are where they're coming from. They're not usually from companies from within the country, because all the telecom companies within Canada and the US are opting in. But eventually they're going to just have to do like a cat and mouse game and cut off certain providers from certain countries. And I think that's why we still get these texts. That was a really crude overview of why I think we still get these, even though there are protections in place. I'm sure it's only 50% right. But basically, we still get them despite all these protections. And Google, I guess, is trying to attack it.
Yeah, and good on them for recognizing that this is a threat. Good on them for sort of picking up the baton and running with it. This is, as you said, it's a global problem. But legislation or rules that would protect us are country by country in their nature. So, if you're a spammer, if you're a criminal, you know full well, set up shop halfway around the world and you can't be touched. And that's kind of where we're at now. So what Google is doing is they're going after them legally. They're taking Lighthouse, this group that they call Lighthouse, to court. Yes, they believe they're based in China. They haven't even identified who they are, but they believe that this case will establish a template, and they want other companies who also run global spanning platforms to do the same, to start, bit by bit, pick one that is most egregious, go after them, set a precedent, send a message that life is about to get a lot harder for you. It's not going to immediately result in these texts disappearing overnight. I think that's asking too much. But if it starts the ball rolling, and if platform companies like Google start introducing friction into the process, that can maybe hopefully slow down these kinds of messages and at least reduce the volume of the ones that get through.
And I was tempted when I got, can we have a conversation today, the text, to respond and be like, yeah, of course. But someone told me that if you engage with these spammy texts, you get flagged as someone likely to respond and you'll get more of them. So your best bet is ignore them. Don't try to hilariously respond, because then these companies and these bots know you're someone who responds and you're likely to get more.
Yeah, you're absolutely cooked the minute that you prove that you're alive. This is a live number. And I hear from a lot of people, I'm just going to waste their time so that they don't have the time to go after someone else.
They'll be the ones wasting yours.
Exactly. Reduce your profile as much as you can and then move on to whatever else that you were doing.
So Apple is going to back Siri, their like voice assistant, AI, whatever, helper. I don't even know how you would describe Siri as a class of product.
Electronic assistant, I guess.
They're going to power it by Google's Gemini AI product, which I know is just one switch. It's a switch to how Siri works. But I do wonder, Apple Intelligence, Apple's AI product, is kind of in vaporware. Like it's been launched and there's nothing there. It's not that usable. I don't even really know what it does after having a big keynote saying it's going to be the next big thing in AI. I wonder if this is a subtle way Apple's kind of admitting defeat here, pivoting and using companies that have decent AI technology to power their platform.
To a certain extent, I think that's exactly what's happening. I mean, companies often announce things and then they simply can't develop them to the point that they're ready to go to market. And so they partner with other companies. In some cases, they're direct competitors. They license their technologies, they pay them a fee and use them as a stopgap. I mean, if you drive a Honda Prologue, it's this new electric vehicle, under the hood, it's a General Motors car because Honda's electric car wasn't available. So they partnered with GM for a couple of years before they move on to their own. So this is common in a whole bunch of industries, including technology. And so Apple, they tried to develop their own model. It didn't quite work out to power Siri, the AI update to Siri. They spoke to OpenAI. They reached out to Anthropic as well, tried to negotiate something with them, maybe use their models, and the price just wasn't right. So yeah, in a way, it's almost like, reaching across the aisle, the Hatfields and McCoys are getting together. This is a temporary thing, though. This allows Apple to have a better version of Siri in the market by next year, as they originally promised. While they simultaneously work on their own model, their own underlying technology, which will eventually take over from Google. Keep in mind, Apple's paying, the report is they're paying them about $1 billion a year to use this model. Google already pays Apple $20 billion a year to have the Google search engine appear as the default on iPhones and other Apple devices. So there's precedent in the industry here. Everyone's paying everyone else. Competitors often get together on projects like this.
Well, the only downside of Apple improving Siri is not getting to watch my parents in their 70s argue with Siri. Like if Siri starts working the way my dad wants, that'll be a whole layer of comedy in my life completely destroyed overnight. But it sounds like they're not throwing in the towel exactly. They're just using good technology now, and then at some future date, maybe Apple Intelligence will be great, like ChatGPT, like Gemini, and they'll use Apple Intelligence to power things like Siri. Is that what you're saying is the likely path here?
Yeah, it's a stopgap approach. And so it ensures that Siri is smarter sooner than would otherwise be the case. And sometimes that's what you do. If you can't develop it on your own, or you can't do it on a timeline that makes sense for the market, you just reach out to someone else, use theirs for a little bit until yours is ready. Happens all the time, and it will mean a smarter Siri, but it won't be as funny.
The holidays are all about family, but at the Chrysler Wrap Up the Year sales event, it's all about you. Enjoy every mile in the most awarded minivan in America, the Chrysler Pacifica, with the most standard safety features in its class, available stow-and-go seating, and the available stow and back built-in vacuum. Make the most of the holidays with a great deal at the Chrysler Pacifica Wrap Up the Year sales event. Based on Ward Small Van segment, based upon the latest available competitor information, Chrysler is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
The time that it is that it's time for Technology Time. We are joined by Carmi, Levy to talk a great place to put AI data centers. No, it's not in the North Pole, which would actually be a great place because you'd save on air conditioning. It's somewhere a little even further than that, in outer space. Carmi, welcome back to the show.
Well, good to be back. Well, Canada, one of the reasons why Canada is being seen as a great place for conventional data centers is because we are a cold country and we've got lots of power and lots of land. But Google has something called Project Suncatcher, which takes it to an even new frontier. They're saying they want to put data centers in space. And the reason being is in the U.S., they've been running into a lot of pushback from communities that don't want these huge AI, massive scale data centers on their outskirts. They say they use a lot of water, use a lot of power, make a lot of noise, take up a lot of farmland. They just don't want them there. And so what Google is doing is they're saying, okay, we're going to develop some technologies. It's a moonshot project, kind of like their Waymo autonomous vehicle project. So it's not going to be launched tomorrow, but they're saying put a data center or put servers and connectivity on a satellite powered by solar, and that can take the load away from earthbound or terrestrial data centers and put them in space. The cool thing is in terms of power, a solar array in space collects a lot more sunlight than a solar array on the ground. So you don't have to build massive power infrastructure to keep the lights on in a ground-based data center. There's a lot more power available in space. So they'll still have to develop the networking capability, the capacity. It's still not fast enough to move data between satellites and between those satellites and the ground via optical links. So further development is needed. But they're going to continue to evolve this technology and test it on some prototype satellites. And then eventually, if this plays out, we'll have constellations, kind of like Starlink on steroids, constellations that do nothing but handle AI workloads in space instead of on the ground.
It's pretty cool. What about a nuclear reactor up there? Plus, isn't like every kilogram that you shoot up into space like some huge amount of money? And I'm no data center scientist, but I'm pretty sure these things are heavy. These server racks are not light machines. You need tons of them, huge amount of real estate. It seems like just kind of a press release. I don't know. It doesn't seem like anything with any weight to it.
Yeah, right now it's not economically feasible because you're right. It's thousands of dollars per pound into low Earth orbit. And companies like SpaceX have significantly reduced that price in recent years because they figured out how to reuse their rockets. And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing so many launches and why SpaceX is responsible for the majority of launches from planet Earth now, is they keep pushing that cost down with reusability. Google is banking on access to orbit opening up, getting cheaper because of technologies and companies like this. And so, not feasible now, but longer term, who knows? Of course, if you're an astronomer on the ground, all these satellites, they're going to ruin your view. And they already are. Everyone's complaining about Starlink. If Google adds its constellation to the mix, bad situation only gets worse.
I was just watching Blade Runner 2075, 2085, 2045, 22 numbers.
One of the Blade Runners, yeah.
Yeah, the one with Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford was in it as well. And one thing that struck me about the movie is when they're hanging out in the town, the ads are so like dystopian, like ads for, I don't know, like brothels. The women like react to the characters. This is not a delightful experience. I'm not a big fan of ads that like, I don't know, react to me. Is that what's about to happen at Union Station in Toronto at the bus terminal?
Yeah, to a certain extent, it has already happened, and so there are billboards there that have cameras built into them that scan the area in front of them and respond. In other words, they'll detect if you're there, they'll detect what kind of person you are, how many people there are, what gender they are, approximately how old they are, and then it'll serve up an ad that's customized to what it thinks, who it thinks is standing in front of it. And so it's almost like customized ads. It's very much out of Blade Runner. It's very much out of Back to the Future Part 2. Just this sort of customized ad experience, which sounds very high tech, but is also rather creepy from a privacy perspective because you walk up to a billboard, it isn't really clear what information it's collecting, what it's using it for, if that information is in fact being shared with anyone else or stored or used for any other purpose. And so, we had this a few years back in malls across the country. Cadillac Fairview got caught with cameras in those wayfinding kiosks, those indoor maps in their malls, including I believe at Yorkdale and Eaton Center, and they took the technology out because they weren't notifying people that's what was happening. There is a small sign in this case on those billboards outside of the Union Station, but the messaging is very vague, and it still isn't clear exactly what you're giving up in exchange for that customized ad experience. From where I sit, that's a bit of a privacy faux pas.
I'm looking at this sign that the company is using to disclose that the ads in the bus terminal are going to watch you. And it basically says the software in these units look at audience count, gender, and age only, as if that's like supposed to assure me. No, it's creepy that they're looking at my gender and age. Like, oh, I'm a millennial dude, therefore I want to buy this, or I'm like a Gen Z woman and I want to buy this. It's creepy. It's almost like they're disclosing this to like ease your comfort, but even just the sign disclosing that the ads in the terminal are going to react to you, those signs in and of themselves are creepy. They'd be enough to get me not want to walk in there.
Yeah, and I think that's a message to all of us. At the moment that we leave our homes in the morning, on our way to work or school or whatever it is that we do, we are subject to all sorts of surveillance. I walk the dog past people's houses and there's security cameras that are pointed at the sidewalk. And so on any given day, at any given moment, you are under some kind of surveillance. And I think it's dirty pool to not be upfront about, what is being collected and what it's being used for and where that data is ending up. And I think that's something that we need to keep our eyes open for when we are out and about. Look for those signs, look for those cameras, and look for what exactly are they collecting? And if you're not comfortable with it, you might want to find a different way to go.
And if you want to truly have privacy, I don't know, lock yourself in a bathroom in your own home, like that doesn't have a window. Is that the world we live in?
Hats and masks, right? Like cover up if you really don't want your. But even then, they're saying there are other ways of measuring you. The gait analysis, the way that you walk. We all have a very unique way of walking. That can be used as a way of identifying ourselves. And so I think companies need to do a better job of messaging around what it is that they're putting in place, and we need to do a better job of just governing ourselves accordingly in public spaces because this is only going to get worse. Data is the currency of the digital economy, and companies aren't going to suddenly stop doing it because there's a complaint. They're going to stop doing it if there's a law that bans them from doing it, but right now there are no laws.
Is the short of it, if I don't want to be tracked and advertised to based on a video capture of myself, I just move to the woods, to a cabin? Like, are there any options for privacy living in a city these days? Not really.
No, you can't. And the sad fact is the same people who are complaining about this kind of surveillance from, interactive ad boards.
They're posting about it on their iPhones.
Exactly. Or even exactly. So their phones are far more invasive in terms of personal privacy than an ad board ever would be. So let's look at all of the factors and let's not get freaked out just because we saw a weird ad, in downtown Toronto. There are all sorts of other ways where we're being compromised far more insidiously than this.
Interesting. So you're saying a lot of the outrage is like so
Misplaced.
Targeted, but we should really worry about the bigger things. Like this is selective outrage, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's easy, right? There's a target. This is Cineplex Digital Media. This is a Canadian company that's delivering this technology, and we have someone to complain about. When if you look at your phone, you probably have like 6 apps, each of which is collecting far more information than that. Why are we not outraged at that as well?
Well, yes, but on the one hand, like just because some things are worse than the thing you're complaining about doesn't mean you shouldn't complain about the thing.
This should not give them a pass. And quite frankly, I think anyone who installs public infrastructure, so it could be ads in public, whatever that form takes, I think there's a higher standard of care And frankly, I think this is something that cities need to look at in terms of the bylaws that they have in place governing what can and cannot be placed. Like there are bylaws that govern where billboards can go, how big they can be, how they're positioned, how bright the lights are so that it doesn't blind drivers who are coming, passing by. And so there are all sorts of other rules in place. Why aren't cities doing this as well?
Carmi Levy, thank you so much for being here, my friend. It was a joy talking to you about the tech stories of the day.
Thanks so much, David. Great being with you.